normally you see a commercial before this, but today we're not. We're gonna start putting one next week. But at the end of this, we're gonna put our Kickstarter video. So we're making a slasher film, and we're gonna Indiegogo it. I will call it Kickstarter as many times as it's necessary, but it's an Indiegogo. Same thing. You
Yeah.
give us money, we make your favorite movie. You're like, wow, this is great. Is this going to be on Screenbox? The answer is probably not, because it's a short film. They don't put those on Screenbox. God, what do you know? Well, you can watch the Empty Space there. But if you're interested in any of our stuff, our short films, the kind of stuff we make, the feature films, please donate. We really appreciate it. The bigger budget we get, the more like heads will roll, literally and not and metaphorically.
Yeah.
So yeah, please help us out. Check out that video. It was also a fun video. It stars me, which was not that great. If you notice, I never really look at the camera or not at the camera. It's always a secret third place. It makes no sense. But yeah, that's why I don't. That's why I'm not going to star in this short film. And if you're like, hey, we don't want to ever see this guy in a short film again, well, guess what? Pay money, and then we won't have to do that. Also, we got. Oh, I was going to point. Well, you'll be below me. I'll make sure. William's going to be making the music. So if you like the Empty Space, you'll probably like this music. But yeah, go check it out. And then now that we've done with that, we're going to also the link is going to be at the bottom. So if you do want to or like help us out and give us some money, put that at the bottom or like click the link. Then you can buy some cool stuff. There's like credits in the. You can get your name in the credits. You can if you have like a very unique username that you want to put in a movie, we can do that. It can't be like you can't say the N-word or anything because I've seen some of these gamer tags.
Right. Yeah. No.
But if if you want to, I think one of mine was Mr. Mars. So if you want that in the movie, you can get it. But yeah, go check it out. It's pretty cool. We never really asked too much of you guys, but that'd be great. And now that I've solicited, we'll see you guys next week. I'm just kidding. That'd be so funny.
Yeah, I can't feel it.
It's a two.
I'm
like,
we're
not releasing. We're not releasing any more episodes until we at least hit $5,000. So it's up. It's in the ball's in your court, audience.
Yeah. So we're taking a break for a couple of years.
For thousands of years. Yeah. But yeah, well, thank you guys. And now welcome to the Bomb Squad Halloween edition. We have 2 more weeks in Halloween. But today we're talking 2001's. Everything good happened in 2001. I can't think of one bad thing. 2001, The Others.
Yeah, no othering in 2001.
Yeah, directed by Alejandro Amenbar, starring Nicole Kidman, and starring Christopher Eccleston, also starring way too many Game of Thrones people, but we'll talk about them at the end. And also, like, that's kind of it. It's a very small film. There's other people in the movie, but no one that I've heard of that isn't in Game of Thrones that I can't spoil right now. So yeah, so I will, since Josh did 1408 last time, I think, I will do The Others. The Others is about a mom who has the 2 most annoying kids in the world.
They're trying.
No.
They're making the
best.
No, they're not.
It's about this is why, this movie is about why they don't let anyone but Italians into Jersey. Just kidding, I'm eventually going to give a real synopsis for this movie.
Yeah.
So this movie's about a family. So let's saw a movie. Someone saw a movie. So this movie's about a family in Jersey. They're kind of taking care of the houses. The kids have a dark secret, and they have a crew of helpers have shown up to be newly hired, and then they have a dark secret as well. And we'll find out what those secrets are as we explore The Others. I feel like The Others, it's not talked about, but people liked it. It was like a sleeper hit, and people really liked it.
Yeah.
So it's good for See, it made a budget of 17 million, and it had a box office of 210 million, which is amazing.
Not really a bomb.
That's like last one's streaming numbers. But no, I think like the funny thing is now, I mean, we're not even that far removed. It's 2024. This movie was released in 2001. I'm never gonna forget that year. And I think but it's been so long that people don't really talk about this movie anymore that much.
Yeah.
And so that's why these are kind of the best, because it's It's a movie that you haven't heard of, but that a lot of people liked and was pretty popular.
Mhm.
Quietly successful.
Yeah.
I think of like The Entity, which is like Martin Scorsese talks about The Entity being like the scariest movie he's ever seen. But if you ask like anyone, like, have you heard of The Entity? They're like, no.
Yeah. What's The Entity?
So The Entity is like, it was also a sleeper hit, and it's about this lady who's been attacked by a demon for like years.
Oh wow.
And she like it's attached to her, and so they try to use science to stop it. And Martin Scorsese called it the scariest movie he's ever seen. And
What
Damn,
what
that sounds
time
badass.
period is it from?
I know it's pretty cool, but it is not it's not the scariest movie I've ever seen.
Right.
It does kind of seem like one that Martin Scorsese would think is scary.
Yeah.
Was it like in the 80s, 90s? What?
I think it was 1976.
Oh.
But I'm not
Just
sure. That
off
was-
the cuff.
Yeah.
That was
damn.
my review.
You could be way wrong though. It could
No,
just be
it
you.
was
2001.
1982. It was 2001. Day I'll never forget.
Yeah.
No, it was 1982. I was kind of close. Barbara Hershey
Oh,
stars
Babs.
Barbara Hershey.
Nice.
Everyone loves Barbara Hershey.
She's great.
Yeah.
But back to
Back to
the others. That was my review of The Entity, which I don't know if we'll ever talk about. It's okay. But yes, William, why did you pick? Why did you go with The Others?
Okay. Well, I would say that like around this time period, like late '90s, early 2000s, that was like a major time for like PG-13 horror, like The Sixth Sense and like The Ring, even like The Haunting, which isn't like a great movie,
Yeah.
but like that was kind of like the first horror movies that like I was like allowed to actually see, like without having to like
Right.
sneak around. And so I feel like these are like the horror movies that like I actually watched a lot growing up, and they were kind of like my formative. I think that's why I like ghosts so much, because most of these PG-13 movies were about ghosts and not like violent slashers or like whatever. And this one always just had like such like an oppressive mood, because like you're in this house, and the kids, Nicole Kidman is like, my kids can't be around sunlight, so like every room has to be completely dark. So like no matter when, whatever time of day it is, the house is always just completely dark. And I thought that was so scary when I was like younger, and like I thought the kids were so creepy, and just like the way that they do the scares and like how the helpers come to the house, like everything is just so ominous, and like I don't know, it was the moodiest of the PG-13 horror films, and I just always really loved it.
It is kind of crazy, and there is like I do want to eventually spend a month kind of talking about 2000 horror,
Mm-hmm.
just because it was like this weird thing where like you had the rated R like House on Haunted Hill, 13th Warrior, which were like super gory. Like
Yeah,
there's no
Ghost
reason
Ship.
that 13 Ghosts
Right.
should be, or like Ghost Ship. There's no reason Ghost Ship should be as gory as it is. But then you also had these like PG-13 horror films that were not only scary, but they were like super successful. Like
yeah,
the
The
one that
Grudge.
is even like less talked about is What Lies Beneath.
Oh, I
with,
love that.
Harrison
I
Ford.
almost chose that movie, but I didn't know if you guys would like that, so I did the others.
And that movie
Fucking
is
love that
like,
movie.
like who would have thought that a movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford in 2000 would do like it was like a huge blockbuster
Yeah.
hit. I was like, what the hell? And so it's kind of crazy like how these movies, and so it was a weird mix where like if you went to go see a rated R horror movie, like they were like stabbing people in the eyeballs and like
Right.
cutting Paris Hilton's head off.
Yeah.
But then there was also these PG-13 movies that weren't really trying to be rated R movies.
Yeah.
They were in the realm of PG-13, but they like played off of ambience and tone
Right.
and stuff. Like The Ring, you know, is the
Mhm.
best example of that. Even like, and I know it's not 2000s and it's also not PG-13, but you think about Blair Witch, where that whole
Sure,
movie
sure.
kind of is 100% atmosphere, for better and worse.
Right.
And so like,
That movie could have been PG-13,
I think,
like very easily.
yeah, it definitely. It could have been if they weren't college kids who didn't curse every other word.
Right,
Like
right.
that's the only.
That's the only, yeah,
the
exactly.
improv script right there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, other filmmakers, if you ever do an improv script with college students, they're gonna curse that much,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you want them to. or
In
not.
unique ways that don't.
That's just- Yeah. But I think, like, and as someone who makes movies that should be PG-13, except you can't stop putting the F word in the scripts, I appreciate these films. You know, I like that
Yeah.
they're so quiet. Like, there's, well, we'll talk about the others. I just want to talk about the genre in general.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's, like, a different tone to them.
Right.
And it's kind of something I miss now, because you look at movies now that are PG-13, and even before it was like a very small window.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you look at those movies, and they're clearly like, especially now, once the whole unrated thing kind of became a thing, where it's like they'll cut it to be PG-13, but
Yeah.
you can tell. And so you're watching this movie, you're like, I know there should be blood here, and there's not, and it's annoying me.
Right.
Like,
Right. And it's so strange.
but like in
Yeah.
these movies, even The Ring, which is like The Ring, people get murdered. Like it's
it's
pretty
dark. They're all
terrifying.
very dark. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's still within the realm of PG-13,
Mm-hmm.
so they're playing within those worlds, and I think that that's more interesting to me. Like if you're gonna make a PG-13 movie, just make one. Don't try to make an R-rated movie and see what you get away with.
Right.
I'm talking to you, Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Um,
Siege. Yeah, I know.
that's you'd have to know trivia for Lord of the Rings to understand that joke.
I mean, like,
I'm
Or
really
the Lovely
alienating
Bones.
everyone on this.
You'd
movie.
also
Yeah.
have to have seen the Lovely Bones,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which no one did.
I saw that.
I was
by
just
myself
talking
in the
about- I was
theater,
talking about this-
Disappointed.
I was talking about the spiders in Return of the King.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
Sheila. She was scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like
Or the insect scenes in King Kong. Okay, I
I know.
just keep going off tangent. Go ahead, William.
it was just like they just like really relied on like terror and dread instead of like
Yeah.
and, like there were like jump scares and stuff, but like most of the scares come from like everyone's just behaving like so weird and erratically, and it's like they really blended like psychological with like the supernatural.
Right.
And so this whole series, I was picking out these like supernatural horror, like ghost stories. And I think with the others, I kind of like cracked why I like ghost stories so much. And it's just literally because those were my first horror films that I ever like really got into, specifically from this era. And so why I picked the others, I just feel like this era of horror films was very important to my development as a horror film. Kind of selfish, but
Nice. And that's,
very
no, that's always
personal.
interesting. Like yesterday, I was watching. I went to go see at the Alamo Draft House. Sponsor us, Draft House. I went to go see Nightmare on Elm Street, and those were the first movies that I ever saw
yeah,
as a kid. You know, like it was like Nightmare on Elm Street were the first horror movies, and like Aliens was the first sci-fi. But like, I don't know. It's very hard for me to see fault in those. Like I was
Yeah,
as I was
totally.
watching Nightmare on Elm Street, I was like, do these have the best characters of all time in horror films? And it's like, I'm a
Maybe.
girl who's a model, and my mom is put me on a diet, and I'm like, whoa, my mind is blown.
It's so interesting. Tell me more.
But I wonder if anyone else finds the character of like Kincaid that interesting as I do. But who knows?
Right.
You know.
Probably
So I
somebody
think that
who
that's always
grew up with those
interesting to
movies, yeah.
kind of exactly.
Yeah.
And I, especially with our generation, there's so many people like even now. If you ask anyone who's like our age, like 30s, early 30s, late middle 30s,
Yeah.
late 30s, Josh.
45.
Josh is
We're all-
45 years old.
We're all the same.
55,
basically.
yeah.
You like there's still so many people who put The Ring as the scariest movie they've ever
I know.
seen. Like go on Bumble.
Yeah.
And every single girl has The Ring as the scariest movie they've ever seen. And so I think that that's very interesting.
Mhm.
I think that that's very cool, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so I think like these ones, like you think about the others or the Sixth Sense, like even if they did release an unrated version of the others, there's not like,
Yeah.
what are they gonna do? Like just add blood to the floor?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like-
CGI blood would be ridiculous. Yeah.
It's almost like the those teen comedies where the unrated cut is just another 30 seconds of a girl not wearing a bra. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this-
Right.
This is,
Yeah.
this is
This is
nothing.
what I wanted. Yeah.
You know.
It's literally like
What's the blockbuster for?
don't spoil our future reviews, Josh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fired Up. You're a good movie other than
But yeah.
that.
But let's get into it. So I didn't mention this at the beginning. William did mention it. I don't know why I thought it was a secret. It is kind of treated as a secret at the beginning, but for like 2 minutes.
Oh.
So the
there's-
kids,
Yeah.
yeah, they can't like they have this disease where they can't be out in the sun or they'll get really sick.
Mhm.
So like again, that just puts it in a very good set. I will say this about kind of the best haunted houses, like we did with this one, with even the Innkeepers, with 1408. So much of that movie is setting up the thing, the house.
Right.
You know, it's
The
like
setting.
Nicole Kidman, like these people. There's like three kind of mainish characters. It's a kind of oldish couple and then a younger woman, and they come and they knock on the door and they're like, "Oh, we know we think you need help." Or
Yeah.
whatever. And so Nicole Kidman's like giving them a tour, and like every time she enters a room, she like locks the other door and like closes it. And then she's like telling them like, because there's a point where they're like, "Oh, we don't need to do this," and she's like, "Yes, you
Couple
do."
listen to me. Yeah.
And you realize, yeah, you realize that like she introduces them to the children, and she has to lock all the doors close all the curtains so they can come in
Yeah.
because they can't be in the sun. And I think like if you're thinking of a good place to set your horror film, a house that's permanently dark all the time
Right.
is probably as good as you're gonna
I
get.
know. It's like such a good idea.
We should-
It's so brilliant.
And
Yeah.
like they can well, and like they can be in a, like the servants can be in a room without like the windows closed. It's just when the kids are there.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I also think that's what's interesting is Nicole Kidman's so like hysterical the
I
whole
know.
movie.
She's
You're like,
insane.
oh, is this all in her head?
Right.
Right.
So you know, you essentially know there's going to be some secrets revealed, but maybe not exactly what it's going to be. Because
right.
this is one of those movies where I thought I knew the twist. I was like, oh, actually, this goes way like further than I than I would have expected, and it really kind of like everyone's so weird.
Dude,
It's like
yeah.
that kind of helps because you're like everyone has a secret and everyone's like a weirdo.
Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
does like kind of like. I also think it helps that it's very British because what it's like the 50s.
Yeah.
It's like
Post World War
post-World
II.
War
Right after
II.
World War II. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her
There's
her husband died.
Snooki and the situation have not yet arrived to Jersey at the point of this movie.
and it's something like where it's like, oh, most of the movie is just people in dark rooms kind of having British conversations,
Yeah.
but it works because it's so like kind of British and old timey. Whereas in The Innkeepers, you're like, oh, these millennials,
Right.
get a job.
Stop complaining the whole fucking time.
I do wonder. Like I will say, the kids in this are kind of annoying, but I like
But
take
they're
it as
kind of
they're
written
from-
Yeah.
in-
They
you
Well,
know?
yeah, they're supposed
Right,
to be
yeah.
annoying.
Nicholas is just.
And
so
I think,
scared,
like,
but his sister is just such an asshole.
I know, and I think like what helps it above the Innkeepers is that because the Innkeepers is set like in modern times. I mean, I know it's a few years ago, but it's still
Yeah.
modern. I know kids like that, so I don't have any.
Sympathy. For
I don't have any leeway for those annoying kids, but I do have a leeway for British annoying kids because I've never met.
Yeah, and their only
So-
friend is
Right,
Nicole Kidman,
with-
who's batshit insane.
Yeah, and who there's like a scene at the beginning where Nicole Kidman's kind of telling him a story of Silence of the Martin Scorsese movie.
Yeah,
Silence,
she's
where,
reading
like,
them the script. Yeah.
they're like, oh, there were these Catholics, and they had to be put to death or deny God, and they all got put to death, and the daughter's like, oh, they should have just denied God.
Yeah. They don't have to.
And Nicole Kidman's like, ooh, what?
Yeah. Is that what she
Yeah.
would
And
do?
I also feel that was the conversation I was having with Martin Scorsese. I was watching Silence. Is two
Right,
Catholics.
right.
I was like, you can like Catholic God forgives everything, buddy. Just deny him and then don't get beheaded by the
Yeah.
Japanese.
He's like, I'll make you watch this again if you don't shut the fuck up. Andrew. It's like, well, just kill me now. Just kill me now.
Andrew Garfield, there's a very easy way out of this. You just have to say I don't believe
Yeah.
in them, and they can change their mind. It's okay.
Scamper away. It's all good.
But like the fact that Nicole Kidman is giving this lecture to like her children are like 7 and like 5,
Yeah.
and like kind of yelling at them and like really being hysterical
In a dark room.
is
In the middle of the day.
in a dark room makes it even worse. Yeah, but it's like the children never feel like the children are safe.
Yeah.
Even before they start talking about seeing
For
things.
real. Yeah.
You're like, and it's not so much, it kind of like the best mother I can kind of compare her to is the mother from Carrie.
Yeah.
Where like they don't even realize that they're how like off-putting they
Yeah. They think they're doing the right thing.
are.
Right.
Yes.
Even like without the abusive parts, just like, oh, she
Mhm.
can't even have a normal conversation
Right,
without
right.
freaking out. Yeah.
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 And I think that makes it even worse, especially like for these
Yeah.
kids, because we quickly learned that they don't have any other friends, and they can't have any other friends because not only do they have this very rare, specific sickness that keeps them inside, but their mother is so overly cautious that she won't really let them even go out of the
Right.
house, and even at night. And it's like, I mean, eventually we're going to find out some other
Mhm.
things, but just a scenario for the children without anything added is a very like kind of depressing thing. Oh, and then her husband's been at war as well.
Yeah.
just so we-
Yeah. Well, it's like the war ended, but he is not.
Come back.
They
come
haven't
back.
heard from him yet.
Yeah.
And I like what you were saying about you never feel like the kids are safe, which I totally agree with. And I think that a big part of that too is like we've talked about like the house is dark all the time and everything has to be closed up, but it's like the house is like so empty and so big, and that's creepy. But also, it's like the sound of everything. Like every time she like shuts the door and locks it, like it's just like she locks the shit out of it. You know what I mean? Like the sound is just like so
Yeah.
like metal and wood and like this hard stuff. And like when she swings the drapes closed, it's like so it's like already like very threatening.
Yeah,
Like just adding to like the ominous tones, and it's like anytime Nicole
and
walks into a room, it's just like, damn, vibe is killed. We
yeah,
are done here. Like we were just cleaning the
right.
piano, and now we're
Yeah.
back here.
I even think that I mean, one of the things I like about this movie is the sound design
Yeah.
because of the fact that I feel like Nicole Kidman's sound design is always a little bit higher because you always hear like kind of stomping
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
you know, or like when she moves something, it's really loud, and it kind of feels like they're doing that to show like, oh no, this is the head bitch in
Yeah.
charge, you know, like this is the person who's gonna who makes the
Right.
rules, and I think that makes it very interesting. I think it makes it very
Yeah.
cool.
And you feel bad for her, even though
And
she's
I think
crazy.
like it,
It's like she's dealing with so much, and it's like she's sympathetic, even though
Yeah,
she's
her
not.
her life is also
Yeah.
bad. I mean, let's
Well,
yeah.
and I do wanna. If you haven't seen this movie, I'd recommend going to see it. I want to just wrap this up for a second because then I want to get into heavy spoilers because a lot of the things I want to talk to are going to be pretty spoilerific. Eventually, they do start seeing ghosts.
Mhm.
Are they? The two kids are like, I've been seeing ghosts. There's like three of
Yeah.
them. It's like a couple and then like a weird old lady.
Like
and,
an old lady,
and a
yeah, a
kid.
little kid. Well, actually, this
and a
was
little
an
kid.
interesting choice because
Oh,
first she's like, I see this little kid named
What's his name? Victor.
Victor,
Yeah.
and he
Victor.
talks to me
Yeah.
and stuff. And then there's this one scene just at night where Victor keeps opening the blinds in their bedroom while they're trying to
Yeah.
sleep, and the boy thinks it's just his sister,
Yeah.
like
Fucking with him.
messing.
Oh,
with him.
that's a really good
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah, because she'll be like, no, Victor opened the blinds, and it's very dark, so you can't totally see, but you can see what you believe is her getting up and opening the
Right.
blinds, and then her talking in a creepy
Which she would
voice,
do.
just to like older
Yeah.
sister
Yeah.
bullying her like
Yeah.
pathetic brother shit.
Yeah, and the brother and sister dynamic is that kind of like they don't realize like the older sister she's older, but she's not old enough to realize like, hey, maybe you shouldn't constantly be picking on
Right,
the little
yeah, just a
brother.
few
Yeah,
years older, yeah.
And so I like they're not old, like they're both doing it in a very
Yeah.
childish way, but it's still like there's no like so the kid he's like, oh well, you're gonna want to play with us, and then she's like, he's gonna come and say hi to you,
Yeah.
and it's like the kid's like in his covers, like not even
Yeah,
looking.
he's
It's
so
like
scared.
clearly he does not
Yeah.
want to participate.
He's experiencing
But, like,
trauma.
but yeah, and like she's turned away, and talking as Victor, and you could tell it's her voice.
Yeah.
But and then again, you're like, oh, maybe this is just two weird little kids. But then things
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Well,
escalate
and then he's
pretty
in bed,
quickly.
and she's like, "Touch him, Victor." And then you just see a hand like put his hand on him, and he like gets all
Yeah.
freaked out. But that's all
Right,
you
right.
see. And it could have been
Yeah.
her, you know.
I also,
Also, again,
yeah.
I just want to say that there was two movies running concurrently. It was this movie, it was very good, but there was a separate movie directed by Andrew Hada that was set in Jersey, and so they're like, "What's his name?" And they're like, "His name is Pauly D. That's what he calls himself." I don't know why.
What's wrong, Jersey?
He called himself The Situation.
I don't
But
even
I
think
don't
Jersey
know.
Shore existed in 2001. I'm so confused.
Well, I watched this yesterday.
When you were born.
Oh, you watched it with the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
No, okay, and actually, this is because the first big scare happens, and I thought this was weird, and maybe this is just a weird rich British person thing. Her and her daughter get into an argument. Her daughter actually like Bible rules lawyers her, and I thought that was like kind of fun because she's like, "Oh, you mustn't tell lies because then you'll end up in limbo when you die." And then she's like, "No, I won't. I've been baptized, and I know that means I'm like guaranteed
good
into
to go."
heaven." And I was like, "Oh, what a Catholic like arguing
Right.
like the meaning of it." But
Yeah.
as punishment, she makes her stand on the stairs and like
Yeah.
recite like scripture
right.
for like
Yeah.
hours. But I'm like, is the standing on the stairs, is that a punishment children went through? Like, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
before.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's pretty
I think-
weird, yeah.
I don't know that specifically, but I think it's to show her extremeness.
Yeah,
'Cause,
yeah.
like,
that she's
there's
a
like
psycho.
ghosts
Yeah.
go stand in the corner, you know, and like I think standing is like a general
Oh,
gringo
like you'll get
gringo
tired.
punishment. Yeah,
Is that not a Hispanic thing?
Mexican Catholics handle things a little
Yeah.
bit differently. I'll tell you that much.
I was gonna.
Um,
Did you ever try to rules lawyer your parents on Catholicism? Did it?
yeah, that would have worked in Mexican
Right,
households.
right.
Trying to tell my Mexican grandma about
Yeah.
Catholicism. That
Andrew
would
had all the
have
authority.
gone over very well.
You're like, I've read this book by Richard Dawkins. He says this is all fake, actually.
It's like, hey, grandma, who's been to church 3 times today, even though it's
Yeah.
a Tuesday. Let me tell you about Catholicism.
Just like, drink this holy water, Andrew. It's a whole glass of it.
Who has like, if you've seen Borderland, that one of the scenes was filmed at my grandma's house, and you'll know which one it is because there's literally a Jesus picture in every
Yeah.
single shot of the frame. So that's what we were dealing with. They're still arguing in that case, but yeah, I think it's like, and I think like again with 1408 with this one, it takes its time so well that it's kind of like you never really know like what's causing, like, because there's also the idea like, oh, is the house manipulating
Right.
Nicole Kidman?
Is
But
what
it's
is actually
like,
being haunted here? Like, what's going on?
Is it just
Yeah.
creaking? Well, and she thinks for a while she thinks it's the young girl who's the servant who
Lydia,
can't
yeah.
speak.
Mhm.
She's a mute, and you never find out why. I mean, you kind of find out why at the end, but she's like, "Oh, has she always been mute?" And then the woman's just like, "No,"
Yeah,
just like leaves
something
the room,
happened.
and you're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, very
Yeah, all
ominous."
those
and I do like how like
so like the way they like just show up to the house and like just their whole vibe is like you just know immediately something is wrong. Like the way you know immediately that the kids are in danger. Like it's just great.
What I do like though is that because the old man is part of it, but he does not care about anything happening. Like
Yeah.
he's clearly like he's
He takes
aware of
orders.
like the
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
dark secret, but he's just like
He would
whatever.
just say, "Mom."
You know, I'll just get
Yeah.
back to my job raking leaves. Do not care
Yeah.
about any of this.
I'm doing the same shit I've always done.
So, I respected him. Yeah.
yeah, and also there's they're talking like, because there was like a plague outbreak and people left, was tuberculosis.
Mhm.
You know, they find those old creepy pictures of like dead people that they took where they like, you know, when back in the day, a lot of times like film photography took so long that like sometimes the only pictures you would take
Yeah.
of dead bodies. And so they like set them up in suits and they made them dress as like the last picture you're ever going to take of them. And so they find some of those. And again, those are just like
Yeah.
creepy. And it's funny because I think we've covered at least 2 movies where these pictures have been a major plot point. Like we did House of Connecticut at the very beginning of this
Mhm.
podcast.
Yeah.
They had those and now this one. So I think it's funny that
I-
if you need to like add creepiness right away.
Yeah, just get
it's
some
like,
photos
just
of
add
dead.
pictures.
I actually learned about that from Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, where his death photo becomes like
Yeah.
world famous.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All I know is that there was no funeral processions for Robert
Because
Ford.
he was a coward.
And then he was a count. And then the husband comes back and is played by Christopher Eccleston. And they're like, "What the hell?" Because he like the whole house also is just constantly covered
Yeah,
in
yeah,
fog.
they like live in Dark Souls.
oh
Which is
yeah,
like, what?
yeah, because
Elden Ring shit.
Yeah.
she's freaking out because she's like oh man, I'm almost certain we're haunted because I'm hearing voices and weird things keep
Yeah.
happening that I can't
And-
explain.
Well, and
Yeah.
while you're talking about, there is a really cool part where she hears like someone walking upstairs, and she thinks it's the
Yeah.
Mintlet girl, and so she's like gonna go yell at her because she's like, "Stop clomping upstairs!" And then she like goes outside and she sees the older lady talking to the mute girl, and she's like,
What the fuck am I hearing?
"Ew."
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why because the daughter's on the stairs, like she's heard the daughter the whole time reciting, so she
Mhm.
knows it's not the daughter. She knows it's not the
Right.
son. He's in the other room. So she's like, "Who was it?" And the daughter's like, "Yeah, it's the ghosts.
Right.
I've been telling you about them this whole time. Like they're in that
Yeah.
room right there." And then she
Yeah.
goes, and
That
that's
just
a
seems
good
like the
scene.
stuff like where all
Yeah.
the blankets are
That
all
is a
over
cool
the
scene.
furniture. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
like
it's
the
scarier
covered
than a room full of
statues.
covered stuff. Like that's just the worst. That's like so.
I know.
No matter what.
That's
I
also
know.
Oculus.
That will never happen.
happens.
And oh yeah, Oculus had
Yeah.
a cool scene too. Yeah, having to uncover things that'll look human is probably that's
Yeah,
always going to
fuck
be
all
the
that
scariest
shit.
situation.
It's like pulling teeth, like in those
Yeah.
fucked up gory movies. Like just can't do it.
But But I do like that half of them weren't statues. It would just be like a picture frame perfectly arranged to
Yeah.
look like a person, like from like that angle with the
Yeah.
blanket and stuff. It was fun.
And then like so the
Mhm.
husband comes back, but then he like almost immediately leaves, and he's like, "Oh, war! I gotta go back to war." And they're like, "The war's over," and he's like, "No, it's not." And so he just leaves, and it's like so that's like a weird thing because again, like there's something
And he
going on
won't
with
even
the
talk to the
husband.
kids. He just like lays in bed.
Well, and you know, because
Yeah.
she's like, she only runs into the husband because she's like, oh, I'm gonna go get the priest because you housekeepers aren't doing anything, and she just gets lost in the fog, and the husband just appears in the fog, and she's like, I
Right.
don't question
This
it.
is
This is fine.
coincidental.
Yeah,
She's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I was looking for the house. She's like, for several years after the war, but she doesn't question it. She's
Yeah,
just
come
like,
home.
it's cool.
Yeah.
You're back. But we already know by that point because just as soon as she's leaving, the servants like talk to each other. They're like, oh yeah, like we're gonna have to tell
Yeah.
her pretty soon.
And you're like, tell her what?
and then there's a cool scene again. I do like the servants and how they're kind of bad at their job and kind of good at their job because there's like a scene where they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to tell her now," and then they're like, "Oh man, you can see it," and so they start covering something with leaves.
Yeah, the two.
Oh yeah,
Great.
tombstone. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, someone is not
Right,
alive
right.
in
What's
this
going on?
cast. Yeah, and that's kind of where they kind of start to tell about the intruders, and so like it kind of goes off in a different direction. There's kind of a twist that we're about to talk about. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend going to watch it before you
Yeah,
hear us talk
yeah.
about it. I think the twist is cool and it's kind of different enough that even if
Yeah, it really
You-
threw me.
yeah, if you think you got it, you might not have. So that's why I'm kind of being a
Yeah.
little bit more selective about it. But yeah, go check it out. If you have already checked it out and you're ready to join us, I'm going to give you 2 seconds until the minute starts. All right, guys, that's
Yeah.
it. Spoiler. Okay, well, we almost
Oh,
moved
I
it
gave
off.
you 2
We're still
extra
on spoilers.
seconds. I'm really
So
careful.
spoiler, guys. So then she's like, they find out that like, oh, they hear the voices and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can hear them talking, and so they get closer, and that's when you realize that like the old lady that the young girl had been seeing the whole time is a medium. They're like all on
Yeah.
a Ouija board, and there's like Caitlin Stark is
Yeah.
there. She's the actual owner. So the people that they've been seeing are the new owners of the house, and they're the ghosts.
Yeah.
They're the others.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been
Right.
the others the whole time. Well, and that's see, because I thought I was like, okay, these children are probably like dead. Like if they go in the sunlight,
They'll be
they're
trapped.
And that's what I thought
snapped.
too. Yeah.
And then of course you're like, okay, the house servants are dead,
Also
which
true.
is also true. And again,
Yeah.
but then it turns out all of them, including Nicole Kidman, are dead and have been for
Yeah,
like several
yeah.
years.
See, and I will say,
Yeah.
so they were going through all the pictures of dead people, and the reason I brought that up before was because they find a picture of the 3 house servants dead, and so they realize that they're ghosts, and then like which leads to the most annoying scene in the entire movie, where like the 2 kids are outside and the ghosts are
Oh,
like
yeah.
walking towards them, and the daughter's like, "Come over here, the ghosts," and the little boy's like,
He keeps like
I
looking,
thought,
dude.
I thought
dude.
ghosts were
Yeah, he's
we're
like, I
sheep.
don't believe you. Once again, I'm calling your bluff. She's like, no,
They're not
fucking trust me,
moving.
dude. I swear
Yeah.
to God. I swear to Catholic God.
Yeah, and I was like, let him die
Yeah.
then. Let him get killed. I don't care.
But the way they move together, like,
Yeah,
his
he's
housekeeping
paralyzed
by
like,
fear,
right?
Like, they like move as like one unit. It's
Yeah.
like, oh. And they just like stare
Yeah.
through the window and they won't let him in. They're like,
Yeah,
let us in, Nicole. Just let us in. And it's like,
yeah. And it's implied at that moment that the people are like, we know more than you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Will you let us in? And so then you're still like, what the hell? Because then you realize like, okay, well if they're ghosts, they weren't like they have to. Well, we can talk about it a little more. So then they're like, okay, they find out it's a Ouija board, and so then they find out that Grace, Nicole Kidman, she actually killed like her husband died in the war, and so she killed her children and
Yeah,
in grief,
Like a
and then
maniac.
she
Yeah,
killed
like she
herself.
smothered them with a
Yeah.
pillow and
Yeah.
then just shot herself
And-
because she was like
Right.
realized what she'd done. Yeah.
And then the next day, when they all woke up as ghosts, she just assumed
Yeah.
that God had forgiven her, and so she was like, oh, "Okay, I guess we're fine." And they like never understood that they.
because she
were
wakes up
ghosts the whole
screaming,
time.
right? Like she like wakes up and she's
And
like that's the first thing you see in the
Yeah.
movie is like her in the brightly lit room and she's just screaming.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, great open.
Right. And and that's when they're like, okay, we need to help. And then like the coolest part, so then they're like, that family is like, okay, we need to get out of here because these people clearly don't want us
Yeah.
here. And there's a cool scene where like it cuts to Nicole Kidman and she's like, get out of here, and she's like shaking the table and she's ripping up papers. And then it cuts to their point of view and the
Yeah.
table's just shaking and there's like papers floating
Yeah.
in the air
Right,
being
yeah.
torn in half. And they're
Yeah,
like,
we're not
okay,
buying this
time to
shit.
leave, which is like,
Yeah,
hey,
that
good
was
for you
smart.
guys. Yeah.
Ghosts are real in this film.
It's the first time homeowners in the horror movie leave before getting
Absolutely.
murdered. And then like my favorite part is then at the end they're like they're gonna put the house for sale, and the kind of the older lady is like, okay, well we have to like learn,
Yeah,
gotta learn to live with
it's
them,
just how it is.
you know. And Nicole
Yeah.
Kidman and the kids, Nicole Kidman like starts a chant being like, "This
Yeah,
house is ours, it's our house," and then the kids start to join in, where you realize that
Yeah,
they're not
they're gonna be bad
going to
ghosts.
like coexist with other.
Yeah, they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
we're gonna defend this place from any,
Yeah.
which is funny because it's like eventually it'll be like some guy with like an iPad,
Yeah.
you know, just being
Yeah.
like, what's going on?
Well, see,
you
and
know?
again, would it have been as bad? Like they cut to, they're like, oh my god, we're in a seance. And then they have like an older lady, and then every other person at the table is dressed in like 2000 baggy jeans,
yeah,
like a
yeah.
Jinko
Jinkos,
sweater.
yeah.
What
And
the
they're like,
fuck?
whoa, we're not buying this house.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here, Vinny.
Get the fuck out of here.
Realistically, because the housing market's so bad, it would just be like one like Saudi
And never
millionaire
going
buying
to
the
it,
house.
just-
No,
You
it would have
know?
been it would have been Tony Soprano. He would have been like, hey, I met a woman today. It's pretty good for me. So,
Why would he move to
she's
England?
a blonde. She's a
She's
blonde.
easily upset.
But like,
She gets upset.
Not
please.
Italy, but he would
Yeah.
try to sleep with her. Yes, I guarantee that.
they're like, Tony, she's a ghost. He's like, oh, we're fucking done.
I'll believe in
Fucking
that
done,
shit.
Alfie. I believe in that shit.
Oh yeah, because ghosts canonically
do
exist in The Sopranos because Paulie is haunted in one episode.
By the little girl.
But so yeah, I think that like all that. Okay. So what do you guys think? Like watching this movie again, I kind of thought that like Nicole Kidman goes into these like little trances like over and over. That's why they're kind of visiting the house as if they've never been
Yeah.
there before, the maids, because like she kind of resets every once in a while. Once they discover their ghosts, they reset. Did you guys get that, or was I just making shit up?
I kind of get it. Like it's like I think to me it's almost like the Sixth Sense where he just doesn't think about the in between. You know, it's just like he'll just be at his house, but he won't like think about the fact that he hasn't really
Right.
spoken to his wife in
Oh
like
yeah.
years.
He believes what he wants to
It's
believe.
like so. It's like he's just
Yeah.
stuck in that mindset, and I think
Yeah.
that's like true of her too. You know, that's what I think. The house servants are like fully aware of it. You know, I think this is actually be kind of like The Sixth Sense or like Fight Club or something, like a movie with a big twist at the end. This would be good
Yeah.
to rewatch, knowing that, and then kind of like seeing like
Yeah.
how they do it, which I guess William would have been doing
Yeah.
this whole time. So
Well, I think the servants definitely
Because they
knew
can see
that
their own
they
photo.
were-
No, they
Like, Nicole
did.
Kidman, like,
Yeah,
they
I'm
can see
saying,
her own
like-
photo, right? Like isn't like her photo in the book, so it's like it's kind of like it's exactly
Right.
the Willis thing, I think, as well, where it's like you can choose to move on from your ghostness and like coexist, or you can choose to continue like
right.
denying it, which would be a hard thing to swallow. Being a ghost, that'd be fucked up. So I get it.
and
Yeah.
that is
Especially
if
it's
you're
super
funny
Catholic.
because you know the
Yeah,
limbo
hell yeah.
argument at the beginning, and like, oh, they are trapped in limbo, but she chooses to embrace
Yeah.
it versus move on. You
I'm
know,
going to
so it's
heaven.
like,
I didn't even think about that. That's
yeah,
so good.
no, it's thematically, it really, yeah,
Mhm.
I think it really comes together. It's
Yeah, I think it's like good because it's pretty creepy and it's like very gothic, which like there's
Yeah.
not a lot of gothic horror films.
yeah, it helps that it's like an
Mhm.
old gothic like
And I-
manor house.
One thing that I wanted to bring up before we wrap it up is that one thing I really like about this movie is how unlikable they allow
Yeah,
Nicole
yeah,
Kidman
and she
to
can
be.
pull it off so well.
Because they could have like, yeah. And like
Yeah.
you don't really ever hate her, but you do understand that like I don't want
Yeah,
this person to
right,
be
right.
my mom.
Yeah, she's still sympathetic even though
Yeah.
she's monstrous.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
too, like you also like, I know you definitely, yeah, you feel sorry for her. It's just, I don't know, it's one of those things where I've seen her in so many like bad like Netflix style movies in the past couple of years, where it's like, oh yeah, she's actually a
Right.
really good actress when she's like
Right.
in a real role, not
Yeah.
just like some garbage.
Hard agree.
So,
Yeah, she does.
so you're okay
Totally.
with me,
Yeah, she's
Nicole
fantastic.
Kidman.
Everyone does a really good job. There's like not really a bad performance.
Yeah, and I think like that's kind of the thing that I miss the most about these kind of PG-13 horror films. Like we said, they starred Harrison Ford, Bruce Willis, Nicole
Naomi
Kidman,
Watts.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Like they were kind of giving these older actors, like right now Smile is out, which looks cool, but it stars
Right.
like a 25-year-old, and so it's exciting. Like Terrifier stars like a 35-year-old, but she's supposed to be playing a 21-year-old, and it's very confusing. So like I do miss these kind of like, oh, this is an adult
Yeah.
story for adults, like Kevin Bacon in Sixth Sense. Like even this movie, I don't think there's ever one kind of cheap scare. All of them are like very well set up and kind of
no one just jumps
supply and
out at you.
demand,
It's all like very well built up, and like you feel the dread the whole time.
Yeah, it's no jump scares. Yeah.
And I think like that's kind of what I miss is that these kind of like, and they still make them, but now they're sadly relegated to Shudder and Screenbox. And not getting theatrical releases. But hopefully they can. I hope they make a comeback because I would like to see PG-13 horror films. Or any horror films this year.
The one that I saw that I liked
Halloween.
a lot this year, it's kind of off topic, but it was rated R, so it's different. But like the new Omen movie that came out, I thought kind of had this sort of spirit. Like that was really return.
Oh
to
yeah, that was good.
School. Yeah,
I was very surprised.
Oh, don't worry. We'll talk about that movie at the end of the year.
That Mark composer did the Witch score, did the score for that movie, and I was like, you can tell it's like just so good.
Yeah,
so folky, weird.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like the first Omen, and we'll get into it at the end of the year. But one of the good things about it is how much effort is kind of put into the visuals, and not just like a lot of movies. Like I think of Barbarian, which had very cool, like visual, like camera movements. Like the visual style was very cool. But like in the Omen, like there's a scene where she's like lying on the bed. And her hair is in like a spider's web, and that's like kind of filling the entire frame. And it's like, no, that's what I mean. Like they will like the way they frame it is not just a cool shot, but the way they like set design it and place everything.
Yeah,
it was like everything
super
was there
creative.
for a purpose.
Yeah,
very much like the others, Mm-hmm. And so I hope there's more of that. And like that, I mean, the Omen went to theaters, so I hope you guys watched it.
Yeah,
but
it's on Peacock.
Should if you didn't. It's on Hulu now. Yeah. But so go check it out. Check out the others. We like it. And then now, after this, make sure you check out the Follow trailer. And, but what do you guys, any last words on the others?
I'm really glad you guys
Any other words?
I was very excited to think of this one. I know it wasn't a bomb, which is kind of my track record, but it's just so good. And like such a great haunted house movie. And formative horror for me. But just, I think anybody who likes the Gothic story is going to really like this movie.
I feel like this falls into the underappreciated version of the story.
Yeah, kind of like forgotten in a way, even though it was like big at the times. Because I'd never even heard of it. So I was like, oh, cool. I really like figuring out who the others were. That was fun.
It's very cool. So we have one more week in Halloween, and William's going to let me pick the last one. It is a haunt, but how much of a haunt is it? We'll have to find out next week when you join us on the Bomb Squad. And also make sure, there might be, next week there should also be a short film on my short film page. You're going to see the other short film trailer at the end of this. Not all of them need money. Some of them I just make for funs. Go check that one out, especially if you like Hellraiser. It's a Hellraiser kind of spoof. And it stars Valerie Eileen from The Empty Space. But go check that out. That should be releasing next week, I think, either on Halloween or maybe I'll release it this Wednesday, just so it's a little bit different. But anyway, check it out. Check out the fundraiser after this. And if you have money, if you're like, I have $10 million, that's way too
just like
much.
0.1%. 0.01%.
That would be way. We can't do that. But chip in or even just check it out. Let us know what you think. And also, we do like your comments. Someone was like going crazy on 1408 comments. We appreciate them. Like, it helps us keep the conversation going. A lot of you guys, like the guy who did 1408, he had read the book and he was like in love with it. And he kind of told us the difference between the books and the movies. So, yeah, we love that kind of stuff. So, don't hesitate to comment if you want to. But yeah, we'll see you guys on the very spooky episode of The Bomb Squad. Hey, over here. Yeah, go here. It's director Andrew Hara, who made The Empty Space and the last ones. I'm supposed to be telling you about my new project, Fallout. There's just one little problem. As you can see, I'm in a little bit of a pickle. But don't worry, with your help, we can figure it all out. So come on, let's go. The reason he's chasing me is because he's obsessed with the subject of Fallout, Ali X. She's a popular streamer. She's having this very special Halloween episode, but he's gonna make it truly frightening. As the killer makes his way into the house, it's gonna be a fight to the death between Ali and her stalker, and there can only be one survivor. Fallout is going to be found footage film because we want you to be right there in the terror with Ali. We're inspired by such films as Scream, District 9, and the entire giallo genre because we really want those colors to pop, especially the blood. Okay, I think we lost. Come on, let's go. Oh, that was close. So if you haven't figured it out by now, Fallout is going to be my first slasher film. But while we do want to give you a fun, cool slasher film, Fallout wants to talk about a little bit more about parasocial relationships and about internet culture and about how the person on the other side of the screen might not be who you think they are. But to make this movie, we're gonna need your help. Because this is a more ambitious project, I've started this Indiegogo so we can make Fallout the best it can be. I'm assembling an amazing team to make this movie, including working with iShape Productions, who did the super cool Rorschach vs. V short film. Your donations will be going to the effects, paying the cast and the crew, and of course, all the blood. In addition to that, if you support the film, you can get a number of perks, from your name in the credit, a poster, exclusive screenings, and much more. With your help, I know we can make Fallout a unique and special type of slasher, unlike one anyone has ever seen. And the best part of it is, we'll be able to stop that killer once and for all. Yeah, it'll be cool. So donate today, before it's too late.